Here is Caribee in her secure cyclone pit at Vunda Marina in Fiji, where she spent the 2018-2019 cyclone season. And I'll do a walk around and show you how things are now. Primary anchor, 45-pound CQR, which is oversized for this boat, and we have attached to 200 feet of 3/8 inch chain, about 10 millimeter G4 grade high test, high strength, with a 100-foot 3/4 inch nylon rod spliced to the end of that. 100 feet on that one, so 300 feet total. And we've used this for 25 years all over the Caribbean and the Pacific, and I can count on the fingers of one hand the times we've dragged anchor, and that was usually always because of poor bottom conditions. These bags on deck are our sails and the halyards and sheets that I have out here now because we're living aboard right now and we wanted to free up the space below, and I didn't want to take the time to move those over to the storage locker we have since they're kind of bulky. For comfort while we're here and in the marina, we added an air conditioning unit, and that's just a commonly available one here in Fiji, split unit. And I made a enclosure, a plenum, for the part that normally goes inside and fits in the forward hatch. When we go sailing, we remove that, put it in storage, and I have a cover that goes over the air conditioning unit. This is our two-part nesting dinghy. It's a Spindrift 11, big roomy dinghy, fits in chocks. It's good for sailing. We have a full sail rig, rowing, and we have a 3.5 horsepower Tohatsu motor, so it motors well too. You can see the halyards and all the sheets are off. We never store these things that can be degraded by the sun out in the weather when we're not sailing. You see our radar unit there for Reno, 16-mile radar. Keep going around. These pits that they use in Vunda are very good for cyclone season. We've been here 3, I believe, seasons in the pit with no issues whatsoever, even during Cyclone Winston, which was really devastating for Fiji. We didn't have any problem. I have 200 watts of solar panels, and they run through a high quality regulator controller that keeps the batteries topped up. We're usually always full before noon on a sunny day, and even on overcast days we get a fair bit of charging, so we seldom have to run the engine for charging. Here you see the Aries wind vane, very high quality piece of equipment. This wind vane has taken Caribee across 3 ocean crossings and thousands of miles of sailing, all kinds of conditions. It never causes a problem. Just keep it lubricated and it works around the clock without any complaint. Very nice piece of equipment. This awning is just strictly for storage. We use it here in cyclone season. It keeps the sun off of the teak and the cockpit and keeps everything dry and protected. We have full harbor awnings, Sombrella, blue and white stripe, really well made, attractive awnings that we use when we're anchored and living aboard the boat. But for storage, this one works better. It's also, if it degrades in the sun, it's not a big deal. Just a flat piece of cloth, plasticized fabric. Same kind of stuff covering the dinghy, keep the sun off the dinghy. so the bottom stays good. The bottom is epoxy, not bottom paint, so it never rubs off on anything. Blue tinted epoxy looks like bottom paint, but it's a lot more durable. You do have to scrape it from time to time when it's kept in the water. This is our frame for our semi-rigid Dodger or spray hood. The front part and the sides are this same plasticized kind of fabric that that wraps around, but the main part is solid, and it's strong enough actually to stand on for a person of average weight. The bottom, we did a full fiberglass, 2 layers of 18-ounce biaxial cloth set in epoxy resin over the entire bottom, 5 layers on the deep part of the keel where the lead's encapsulated, and up to 10 layers along the leading edge, feathered back for increased impact resistance in case of any collision. Also built a new rudder. All this work was done in Trinidad between 2002 2005, mostly all of it then. That's when the rigging was changed out too, but this rudder has no internal metal parts. It has a cheek plates, stainless steel 316 grade on the outside welded to the shaft, so there's no chance for any internal corrosion. The 3-blade bronze propeller was added then and has an aquamet stainless steel shaft that's extremely corrosion resistant. All of that good top quality stuff. You'll never ever have a problem with osmosis on this boat. Okay, welcome to Caribee's main cabin. You can kind of get an idea of the layout. It's actually pretty comfortable for a boat this size. I'm 5'10" and I have full standing headroom all the way back from here and this entire area. Now when I get forward to the very front part of the cabin, I have to duck my head a little bit, but it's actually quite good headroom for a boat this size, and you know, you don't feel cramped, so it's a nice cabin. We have the door forward, and behind this is a full-length or almost full-length mirror, and you can look at that. This table comes out real easily along with the base, and this will go into the socket in the cockpit, so you can move the entire table out to the cockpit if you want to have breakfast or drinks out in the open air, and makes it nice. Opens it up down here a little more when you do that too. This was a custom table built of teak in Trinidad. It's one board, one nice thick, about 25 millimeter or 1 inch thick board, and very nice little table, a proper table. Okay, I'll just go around the cabin and show you some of the storage we have. This boat has really an amazing amount of storage for a small boat, I feel. These boats were really never designed as liveaboards, but they actually make a very comfortable little liveaboard long distance cruising boat for a couple or single-hander, and it's amazing how much storage they actually do have. We have a locker here, and of course here's the bookshelf. Then we have another locker here, and well, these lockers, this one I have, as I did in some other places, made little boxes that form fit, and they come out, and so it makes it really easy to put a lot in there but still be able to access it easily. So then down here, all along the starboard side, we have 3 good-sized lockers. You can store things. We have some kitchen linens and food. We use a lot for food storage, and a lot of these. Down in the bilge, this is quite a large locker. It goes down pretty deep that way and back considerably, quite far back, and you can keep things like canned goods, bottles of wine, food, whatever you want, but it's a good size locker. what we have over here. We have a locker under here, good size locker. Another locker here, also pretty good. And behind here, this comes off. It's kind of a sequence you have to go through to get it off, so I won't do it right now, but there's a good size storage space. We keep even travel bags, suitcases back there, but you can store a lot of things back there without a problem. I mean, have plenty of space. Now, over here, we have underneath this cushion, pops out, another good sized locker down there. Back here, we have a lot of space back here, which we use for paper towels, toilet paper, napkins, paper goods. You could also use it for other things, but it's pretty big. It goes all the way to the end of where the stove kitchen range goes, so it's a good size space. Then here we have a cutlery drawer, and has a lot of good utensils in there which stay with the boat. All this stuff stays, so you get a full complement of cutlery and cookware and stuff. And this is another little drawer. This was added. We did this in Trinidad when we did all the major refit. And this is just some more kitchen utensils. You can use it for whatever. This one I use for small tools that I access frequently, so I don't want to have to put them some out of the way place. They're just handy to have there. And then there's my fourth drawer, so you got quite a lot of space here for storage. Then over here, I'll start with this one. This was a thing we added too. This pops out, a little cover, and this will lift out, and you can store quite a lot of stuff in there. So you have good space for that. And this was an added cabinet. It's teak veneer over plywood, and we store condiments and things. You can use that for whatever. This is the access to the cockpit instruments, depth sounder, speedometer, tachometer, and then over here you have these instruments that I showed you, can see from the cockpit or down below. Then there's more from the engine room. You can access what's underneath this space over there, which for larger jugs of gallon 4-liter size or something, you can put big things down there. Down here under the stove and range, we have where we keep the pans and cookware. You can put stainless pots, pans, and these things will also go with the boat. So you have a full set of cookware. This little drawer is pretty handy to make use of some space that wasn't used. Use it for containers, things that you can put in the refrigerator. It just comes right out. So it's easy to access that. Goes in and it's out of the way. Behind the stove, you have a large area for whatever you want to use. Condiments again, we use it for that, but you could store just about anything to do with cooking or the galley. We keep our coffee there, get some peanut butter, that sort of thing. And then of course the dishes, and coffee cups, drinking glasses, coffee press, all that stuff stores out of the way behind the little tile trim. And so you have a lot of storage, really, for a boat this size. It's almost amazing that how much it actually does have. This one is it accesses the engine, and also there's a little compartment here. You have this electrical switches, fuses, and wiring, which can all be accessed easily from in here. And then you have another storage spot here. So I guess that's about all the main storage in the main cabin. Okay, this is our Force 10 3-burner stove with oven and broiler. It's a very nice little unit. It works very well. Everything is good except for the electronic clicker, which lights the burners, which basically went out almost after it was new, and we've just never had that working, but everything works perfectly on it. Opens up for cleaning. You can pull out these locking pins, which keeps it from gimbaling when you don't need it to, but then it's fully gimbaled for use under sail, and so it's really secure that way if you're sailing off a custom little cover plate that we can put over the top when you're not using a stove and you want a little counter space. If you're baking bread and you want to have your flour laid out here, something like that, it's a good surface for that. Along with this pop-up cutting board surface, you get a really big surface area in the galley. That, and with the chart table over here, you have just a whole lot of counter space, so you really never run out of counter space if you're making meals. Pretty handy. And I don't think I mentioned that these, like the one by the refrigerator, these also will pop out for good access behind the stove. Now we have also for drying the dishes, this is a little drip pad that's really good. You can take your wet dishes, set them on this and let them drip dry, or you can put them on top of that right here by the sink. Very handy. Wash your dishes, let them dry there. So we have this little dropout cutting board too that fits part of the sink. It's cut on the bottom to fit right in the corner, so you get this. If you're cutting things, you can push into the sink, makes it easy to keep clean. You have your galley spout. This is filtered, fresh water, of course, filtered and unfiltered. The pump, you turn it on, and so you get unfiltered, filtered for drinking or cooking. This one is fresh water with a baby whale foot pump. Just use that for rinsing off dishes and low water use where you don't want to run the main pump. This one is salt water. Of course, we're not in the water now, so I can't show you, but has a separate foot pump. So if you want to rinse off things with salt water, save fresh water, you have that. But really, with the water maker we have now, we almost never use salt water because we have just an abundance of fresh water, so it's not really an issue. Okay, this is our refrigeration and compressor too. The compressor unit is back here alongside the inverter. These little panels just slip right out, which gives you good ease of access to work on anything or get in there. And there's storage back there for things we use, like for insect repellents and cleaning solutions and things. So there's quite a bit of storage space there. And then when it comes to the refrigeration box itself, we have top loading, good form-fitting, perfect fit without a gasket, because this was used to form the plug. So it fits perfectly with no gasket. It's very efficient, good insulation all the way around. Now down in here, this is actually a freezer as well. Of course, the evaporator freezes ice cubes. You can keep a few steaks or whatever kind of thing you might want to freeze frozen in there, and the rest of the box is just refrigeration. So it works out pretty well. It's a small freezer, so you can't store a whole lot of things, but you can keep some things in there, and makes it pretty nice. Okay. This is a Henderson, or now Whale Mark IV diaphragm pump, which is much better than the plunger type pumps. This one you can pump just about anything you might ever put in a head through with no problem whatsoever. It's never going to stop up. You're not going to have leaking, anything like that. It's a very good kind of pump to use for a head. This is a large storage area, probably the biggest locker inside the boat, on the boat, except maybe the sail locker. So you can put lots of things in there, which we do, of course. And this is a little medicine vanity type cabinet that I built out of teak and plywood, and we can store toiletries and things in there, little extra storage out of the way. And we have a door on each side so you can close. You can have privacy, and then this door, same kind of thing. So it's a walk-through head, but it has good privacy. Then over here we have the vanity area. I'll put a nice little mirror there with the paint all grip that matches the head. This is a high intensity light, a little halogen light that's good for, you know, putting on makeup or whatever you do there where you need to be able to see well. And here we have added the stacking stowage boxes, and they come out individually, stow on top of each other. Even the whole big one comes out on each side, so you get all kinds of storage for medications, toiletries, whatever you want. And then up above that, behind, we have linen stowage for extra sheets, pillowcases, washcloths, towels, anything like that that you want to keep up there. It's a real handy place for that. Down below, stainless steel sink and tile. I've tiled this. We did this work in Trinidad as well. Tiled border tile with little fish reef scenes, and then the solid ceramic tile here. Nice finish for that. Down below is another big locker, not quite as big as the one on the other side, and I keep all kinds of tools, some paints, paint brushes, sandpaper, power tools. That's what I use this for. You could use it for any kind of stowage, but it makes a pretty good low center of gravity place to keep tools and things, and it's always dry. No issues with rust or anything down in there. Underneath, we have stowage for anything that you want to stow down there. We just keep some nuts and bolts and a few sealants and things stowed down there, but it's a good storage area. This is the speed log impeller that is removable. Push it through the hole and gives your speed readings. New mast step, solid epoxy and fiberglass. That was fabricated in Trinidad, and we pulled the mast at that time and did everything that needed to be done on that. So that's all in condition. And this is a freshwater pump, baby whale. I'll pump it with my foot, and you can see the water comes out here real easily. Spilled a little bit there, but so that's pretty useful and pretty handy. It's all real livable, comfortable little head compartment, and gets a lot of use all the time, of course, but it's always real well laid out and works well. Here is another shot of the tile around the head sink. This tile was bedded in silicone, and the grouting is actually black silicone. I did that so there would be no chance of cracking if the boat moved or worked under sail. And I guess it worked, because it's been in there something like 15 years, I guess, and no cracking. And so we have also some little decorative tiles up here, and the curtains, like all the curtains in the boat, are a cream colored sunbrella, so there's really good resistance to sun, and they're easy to take off and wash and keep clean. So it's really a simple and effective system. Okay, I'm going to start up here in the forward cabin and show you some of the improvements and upgrades we've made and how things work. Probably the most important thing we did, or one of the most, these bunks were originally quite narrow, as they are on Nicholson 32s, and they're pretty uncomfortable for sleeping, especially long term. So what we did is brought the width out from originally, which was back here where the cabinets are, which would have made it end about here, and as you can see, that would be a pretty narrow berth, so we increased the width considerably, maybe almost 50%, 40% maybe on this one, not quite so much on this one, but it made a huge difference in comfort, and now it's actually quite comfortable. We also have a filler. Up here is the plywood base, epoxy and polyurethane coated. It fits in this area between the two bunks, and then we have a cushion that we store up in the sail locker that matches these, and it fits in place, which makes, and after you remove the anchor chain and lock it up, it makes this entire area one big berth, which is really comfortable then, especially good if you're in a marina or a boatyard or something where you're not using your anchor and you don't need this in place all the time. We have these two fans, which we have replaced the original motors with some brushless, low draw, about 1/2 amp per hour fans that are very quiet, put out a good bit of air, and don't really draw down very much power. So that makes a lot of difference in comfort. Also, we have a Goya hatch that will open forward or backward, aluminum frame with plexiglass smoked center, very high quality equipment, and it adds a lot to the comfort out at anchor. Right now we have the air conditioning unit that I built a plenum out of some plasticized fabric, because here in the boatyard you don't get much breeze a lot of times, and it gets really uncomfortable. So this makes it really comfortable. It's almost like having your little air-conditioned apartment here in Fiji, where you can just stay in here if you're trapped in the boatyard, or if you're in the marina and you don't want to go out sailing, you can still be comfortable. Also, when you are out and you have your hatches open, we have screens that stow in this special compartment we made here, and they're solid frame screens. Each one fits in its hatch and fit pins in place, so they're kind of a lot better than using just the loose fabric like some people do on their screens, and they keep all the mosquitoes and bugs out and still give you good airflow. This chain pipe is not original configuration. We brought this aft to get the weight of the chain further back, which helps the sailing characteristics a lot. Then you can open this up if you want to access all the chain. And this chain is 3/8 inch or about 10 millimeter G4 genuine Akko chain. It's about 4 years old, I believe, and hasn't really had that much use, as unfortunately we've had the boat stored more than we've been sailing since we bought it. But it's very, very good shape. You don't see rust on it. 200 feet with a 100-foot nylon road spliced to that, so 300 feet total on the primary chain and anchor system. Okay, underneath here we have what we use as clothes lockers. This one has a little light that comes on when you open the door, a little switch so you can see what's in there. And we have his and hers clothes lockers. This was Cheryl's on this side. Underneath these bunks we have a lot of stowage for spare parts of all kinds. I have engine spares, electronic spares, navigation, radio spares, spares for almost all systems, water maker, everything you could really need spares for. I usually have, especially the more important ones. So under the cushions we have stowage for that kind of thing on both sides. So we have a lot of that. We also raised the cabin sill about 10 to 12 inches, and which added a lot of storage down here, which is low center of gravity, good storage, doesn't hurt the sailing characteristics, And this cabin sole, like throughout the entire boat, is a 6mm solid teak with boso strips, which is a tropical hardwood we put in Trinidad, and it's epoxy to epoxy coated 1/2 inch marine grade plywood. Really high quality flooring. If you ever need to sand and refinish it, you'll never have to worry about sanding through it. It's really thick, not like a veneer like you see a lot of times. So that's throughout the entire cabin, all cabins, and all good quality stuff. I think maybe that's about it for the forward cabin. And then so we'll move on back to the head compartment. Okay, here is the forward cabin in its more typical configuration with the bed linens on. These are little reading lights that we have over each cabin, each berth I mean, in the forward cabin. And this is a telltale compass over the captain's berth, so you can just look up at a glance and see which way the boat has swung around, which way you're pointed without having to get up and look at anything. So it's pretty handy. This is our sail locker forward of the bunks, and in there we keep our storm sails and our spinnaker and our dinghy sail. We have a storm trysail, a storm jib, and a storm staysail. The lug rig, the lug sail for the dinghy, and an asymmetrical spinnaker and a sock. Also, we have our harbor awnings, the blue and white Sombrella. You might be able to see those. They're rolled up there. It's one awning for aft of the mast and another awning for the foredeck that goes forward of the mast, and it covers the entire boat for the most part, keeps it out of the sun and weather, and makes the boat cooler in light winds, and it's an attractive awning. We have also the mainsail cover and the cushions that we use as a filler to make this into a large berth, where it makes the whole cabin into one big berth. So all that stuff stows right up there behind this curtain, so it's kind of a nice look. It keeps it out of sight and all in a nice compact area. The port lights are tempered glass, original tempered glass, not plexiglass or Lexan or anything that crazes and scratches. These are as old as the boat, and they look like they could have been put in yesterday. They're really good, high quality tempered glass. Now, even though it's pretty strong, one of the complaints that these boats had was that they could be knocked over on a wave offshore and the port light broken out, which are fairly large port lights. So we have 12mm Lexan storm shutters and associated screws that are fitted to screw over these port lights when you're going offshore, or any conditions where you're concerned about that makes it extremely strong, and that's a good safety feature. Okay, this is the aft starboard part of the main cabin, and over here we have our navigation area. Electronics, don't have everything in place right now. Usually we have a laptop computer with electronic charge connected, VHF, ham SSB radio with a Pactor 3 modem. It's a 2E that was upgraded to a 3. We have an AIS receiver, a power booster for the ham SSB radios back here, a little handheld VHF. Back in this area behind here we have the refrigeration compressor, very efficient little unit, a 1200 watt inverter. It is a 110 volt inverter, but I do have a step up step down transformer, 1000 watt for 240 110 conversion, so you can go either way with that. And I'll show you the one little feature here that I like a lot. It's our radar unit, and it will swing out and adjust any position you want where you can see it from the cockpit, or if you swing it back in, you're below decks, maybe you're resting in your bunk or cooking a meal offshore, you can see the radar from down here. You don't have to walk out somewhere and look, so you can see the same radar unit from the cockpit or below deck. This is the chart table surface, and in here is where you can keep your charts and anything like that that you want to keep. I've added this little box that's kind of a catch-all for things you need pretty often, pencils, tools, little things, and the whole thing will lift out, so that makes that kind of easy to access. And, so we have that. Below here is a storage area, and we use it for liquor locker. It's got some other things you can put whatever in there, and I have a little box that clips up, comes down, and I keep electrical repair things, fuses, light bulbs, wiring, small wiring, switches, anything like that. A lot of spares that could go out and need to be replaced. Okay, I guess that's it for this area. Okay, I wanted to say a word about these lights. We have LED replacements in these little reading lights, and they draw almost nothing like LEDs do, and they put out a really good little light for reading. So we have this on both sides of the cabin, and that's a really nice little thing, I think. This is a wireless receiver for the temperature gauge, which I keep in the refrigerator, which tells you both the temperature inside the refrigerator, and it also tells you the cabin temperature where this is located, so that's kind of useful. And on the lights, we also have LED light up here, which is again very low draw light and gives a decent amount of light into the cabin. So if you're worried about things using up too much electricity, that's a really good thing. But if you want a little more brightness, a little more candle power, then this one is a double fluorescent, which really lights things up. And we have several of these other little lights here. I'll show you. This one is halogen right over the stove. That's the other cabin light there we're looking at. And then over the galley stove here, we have a halogen light right here, which puts out a really nice, good, bright light. When you're cooking, you can see what's going on. And then for over the galley, I have a little halogen light here that lights up the sink galley area. If you're washing dishes at night, makes it really easy to see what you're doing. Plenty of light for that. Okay, this is the water tank, and I'll show you the fuel tank. Both water and fuel tank were put in, fabricated new in Trinidad when we did the big refit. And this water tank and fuel tank are epoxy and biaxial cloth. It increased the capacity of both and made it almost leak proof. I mean, there should never be any issues with any kind of leaking or anything. This is a Henderson cap, which is really good and secure. You can put it on and lock it down for offshore, so no matter how much movement you get, even if the tank's completely full, you're never going to lose any water out of it. Another good feature about this, as well as the fuel tank, is that you can reach in with your arm and reach every corner of the tank to clean it. So you never have to worry about sludge and dirt or any kind of buildup in the tank. It has a baffle across the middle to keep it from water from sloshing around too much. When it gets down low, it's not completely full and you don't have big bunches of water rushing around. This is about 45 gallons, which I guess that is about, what, maybe 150 liters or something like that. It's 175, I don't know. Anyway, it's a good size, pretty decent size with the water maker. It's easy to top up, so no matter how much water you use, you really don't have an issue as long as that's going. And this is the fuel tank. I won't pull that off, but these wing nuts that the whole top come off, the big access plate here, or you can just take this one off to fill the tank through a Baja filter. Say you want to have a Baja filter, if you're worried about dirty fuel, you can fill it right through that just by taking that off. But if you take the whole access port off, you can reach not quite all the way to the bottom, but close. If you have any dirt in the bottom, you can see it, and you can, clean it up with a little mop. I usually drain the tank completely every couple of years, clean it all out, and refill it with clean diesel, so you never have a problem with dirty diesel. This is the front of the engine. The engine room or engine compartment gives you good access. So it's you're looking from the galley, of course, and I'll show you a little bit about what here. This is a Kubota, a Phasor Kubota, 28 horsepower. It's got, I believe, let's see what it's got here. It shows 2855 hours. It's always had the oil changed and all service done on a very regular basis. I always did it all myself and made sure everything was done right. This is 80 liter per hour water maker control panel, and that shows your gauges, your vacuum gauge, your high pressure gauge, your flow meter. Here is the high pressure pump. It's controlled magnetic clutch, so it's driven off the engine. Anytime the engine's running, you can make up to 80 liters per hour, either at anchor or underway. Very good water supply, high quality water, of course. There you can see the front of the membrane. Everything's in the engine compartment. Very unobtrusive. Works very well. Okay, there's the standard alternator, and here is a high output 90 amp alternator. Just a single wire Delco high output alternator, and I have two of these spare. I have three altogether, this and two spares just like it, just because I was able to get them at a place where I could get a good price and availability. Never had to change it out, but it's a good thing to have spare. I guess that's about it on the engine. I also have really good access to the back of the engine from the cockpit, which I can show you. One thing I wanted to show also was the access that you have below this little galley storage. This one comes out. You can just lift it out, and it's easier with two hands, but I'm using the camera. And so down below you have space for large things, and especially liquids. Have some coolant, engine coolant, 4 or 5 liters of 5-liter jug of motor oil, and you can store. We have a pressure cooker, which also goes with the boat, and any larger items that you have are easy to access. You just pull this out, reach down in there, and pull those things out. So that's a nice, good storage area down in there. Here you see the table that doubles as a cockpit or cabin table in place in the cockpit, and it fits nicely down in its socket there. Gives you a good little table for use outside when you're entertaining or just enjoying the cockpit area. So that's how that works. This is the teak in the cockpit. It's very good condition, all newly redone when the refit was done in 2002, 2005, been maintained, kept in good shape all the way through. Teak seats and cockpit locker lids, which are also seats. This is the manual bilge pump, another Henderson or Whale Mark IV, good quality diaphragm pump, and large storage lockers in there. We have all kinds of things in there, but they'll hold a tremendous amount on both sides. Also, there's this lazarette locker, which is pretty large, pretty good size. And we have secure stowage for two 10-pound aluminum propane bottles. Only one of them's on the boat right now, the other's in storage locker. We also have a 20-pound tank that if you're going on a long voyage or long time between possible refills, we can carry that lashed right there in the corner on the lazarette, pretty much out of the way, and gives you at least 6 months between refills if you ever need to go that long. This is just the leg of a boom crutch we just use for cyclone storage. Not something you would sail with, but if you want to carry it with you, it disassembles into a couple of spars and a flat piece of plywood that you could carry on the side deck. One of the best upgrades I think that we made on this boat is this cockpit sole. I raised it about 38 millimeters, about 1.5 inches, and left a gutter all the way around, so any water that comes into the boat on a wave or anything like that runs off the sides, and you're not standing around on a wet area. So that's like that. This tiller is easily removable and replaceable with 3 through bolts right through these through holes on the bronze fitting, and I have wing nuts, so you can just stick the tiller down in there, push the 3 bolts through, and just turn the wing nuts on, and your tiller's in place, and you can take it off for better room in the cockpit. The other thing about this cockpit sole, though, originally on these boats we had a small manhole type fitting over the rear of the engine. This is access for the engine. And it was not really big enough. You could put your head through it and one shoulder maybe, if you weren't too big a person, one arm at a time down in there. Really difficult to work on things and access. So we replaced the whole thing. We call the old way the hell hole, but this one is much bigger. You can actually, we did put the engine, install the engine right through this hole, so you can remove the entire engine through the cockpit hatch now. And I will take that off and open it up and show you how that looks. It's quite easy to take off. There are, let's see, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10 screws, 10 machine screws set into nuts that are epoxied in place. Each one of these screws has an O-ring under it, so there's never any leaking into the engine room. And there's also a gasket under that, so even if the cockpit were filled with water, you wouldn't get any leaking into the engine room. And these are the screws that hold the cockpit sole engine access hatch in place. And as you can see, I think each one of these has its own O-ring. So if there's water in the cockpit, it can never seep down into the engine room or get on the stainless to corrode, cause any crevice corrosion on the metal, anything like that. It's completely, totally dry in the engine room because of this. And actually the whole boat, we never have any deck leaks around port lights. Everything was pulled out, resealed, replaced, hatches, no leaking anywhere. It's a totally dry boat. Also, we have the sun cover over the cockpit instruments. You have the tachometer, then you have speed and water temperature, and then this one is depth. Okay, show you a little bit of what's on deck. This is the Profurl roller system, and it has a sun cover, a piece of plastic over it now just to keep it protected while we're here in the cyclone pit. This turnbuckle, like all the turnbuckles, are silicone bronze, so they should last forever basically. Nothing can happen to those, no corrosion, very strong. There's the 45-pound CQR. Just have it lashed in place now. And here is the windlass. La France 1000 watt, came in 88. Don't have the chain on it now. Chain is below decks, and we have a silicone plug in the chain pipe to keep any rain that falls from going inside. So you just pull the chain back out of there and go over the windlass and connect it, ready to go. Here is a spinnaker pole that attaches to the front of the mast, and that's a good place to stow it out of the way when you're not using. There you see the dinghy. It's in its chocks, which is where it rides when you're underway as well. You can see one of the fitted chocks there. And there is the middle Yacht hatch that was added. You can see the sun cover that we have in place now. You could leave that or take it off, and has smoked plexiglass underneath that. Here you can see the inner forestay that we added to fly a storm staysail or a second head sail. It's disconnected now. It's easily reconnected. You can see where it goes up there, and see the mast steps. There are mast steps all the way up, so you can ascend the mast easily. No need to be hoisted up in a bosun's chair. Easy to go up and down, which is really helpful. Now here you can see the air conditioner unit has been removed. We leave the compressor unit with a waterproof cover. It's impervious to salt spray or water. If you want to sail with it in place, it's easy to do. Also very easy to remove, just 4 bolts on the feet. Loosen those, pop it off, put it in storage, and it's out of the way completely. Here is the forward hatch, the Yacht hatch with sun cover over it for storage. You can leave that in place, or if you take it off, it's smoked plexiglass, and it will open forward. And it'll also open from the aft, the other direction, depending on if you're swinging to anchor at a marina, need some air from the other direction, or just have a real gusty wind and you don't want that much coming down below, you can do that. Now here is where the inner forestay attaches. It's a nice heavy weldment, big stainless steel backing plate below, very strong. It's also a safety feature. For any reason you ever lost the forestay, you could set that up to stabilize the mast. 2 large cleats, one port, one starboard on the front. We have bronze chocks for the lines to run through, and closing chocks. We put those on for Panama Canal transit, so if your line is running up at a sharp angle, like when you're locking down, it won't pop out of the chocks.
Well, thank you for watching this extraordinary display of what can be done with a Nicholson 32, such a tiny little ship, but crossing 3 oceans, sailing for 25 years, and you can see how many improvements have been made and how extraordinary this little vessel is. She's now for sale, so contact us on +61 420 882 296. It will be a pleasure to show you little Caribee. Thank you.